Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caroline Logan. I'm Programme Director for BuildForce, reporting to you from a very dreary Dorset day. But we have some sunshine in our lives today with the HS2 team, the Balfour, Beatty, VINCI, Systra joint venture. They're bringing today to you before our bespoke event in April, and we'll hear more about that in a minute. But first off, we're going to hear some fantastic, incredible veteran talent who are going to inspire you and entice you in. So sit back and enjoy. Over to you, Angela.
Thank you, Caroline. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the BuildForce Virtual Career Chat. My name is Angela Forbes, and it's a pleasure to welcome you. So thank you for dialing in. Now, the first thing I'd like to say is the team at BuildForce, our employers, and indeed our sector does appreciate you, our armed forces, for all that you do and for the sacrifices that you have made and continue to make whilst serving. So we thank each and every one of you. And BuildForce is our way of giving back. So we aim to help you as best we possibly can as you go through your resettlement journey. Now, standing beside us today to do that, we welcome HS2 and the Balfour, Beatty, VINCI, Systra joint ventures. So BuildForce are the military partner for HS2, and we bring these virtual chats to you so that you get a feel for what is happening on this groundbreaking project and what makes BBVS so unique. There's also plenty of opportunities on the project, so we're going to hear how your brilliant and incredible military skill set would transfer over just fine. So to discuss this further, I'd firstly like to welcome the client, so Peter Gow from HS2 Limited, and we'll hear from those that are on site as well, building out the Old Oak Common Station, which is going to be the largest new railway station ever constructed in Britain. So the construction team and the M&E contractor will join us, 3 of whom are veterans themselves. But first, we're going to hear from Peter. So we'll switch our cameras off, Peter, and I'll hand over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Angela, and good afternoon, everybody. I think you did a good job already, Angela, of drumming up the excitement for what's happening here at HS2 and Old Oak Common, but I'll do my best to give it a bit of context and introduce the project a bit more formally. So I'm Peter Gow. I'm a project client director for High Speed 2, so I look after the Old Oak Common Station. It's a big enough project in itself, so that keeps me and the team very, very busy. I've been involved in the project for about 6 years in different roles, so hopefully can answer some questions as well about the project if you have any specific technical questions or anything you want to raise, really. So let me just flick on to a couple of introductory slides. I'll skip over that. Right, so High Speed 2, you've heard about us, I'm sure. You know, we're in the news every single day, but most of it is actually quite negative in reality. It's obviously a very politically interested project. Everybody's very interested in what we're doing, and it's used often in debates about whether we should or shouldn't do it. The reality, though, is somewhat quite different in terms of where we are in delivering this project, and we very, very much are a major construction project in full delivery. But I'll set a bit of context first. So what is a High Speed 2? It's effectively building a new section of railway that's connecting London to Birmingham. It had originally planned to go beyond that, both northwest to Manchester and northeast to Leeds, but the government's made some decisions recently to cancel those elements of the scheme. But we still will be building new railway between here and Birmingham, and you still can get on a train at Old Oak Common and go all the way to Scotland if you wanted to. For example, it just means you'll be on new track for the first bit, high speed, and then conventional railway beyond. It's High Speed 2, which is always interesting. So everyone always asks, where's High Speed 1? High Speed 1 is the section between London and the Channel Tunnel. So Eurostar, if you've been on that, for example, is High Speed 1. It is the largest infrastructure project in the UK, so it's the biggest gig in town. We've got an awful lot of people, an awful lot of delivery infrastructure taking place. And whilst it's called High Speed, really the key themes about High Speed 2 is about carbon benefits, is about capacity upgrades, so creating more capacity on the north-south connection, and it's about connectivity, connecting the main cities in the UK and obviously onto the infrastructure that sits beyond that. So if I click a little dot there, you'll see that, yes, okay, there's a single line connecting London to Birmingham there in blue that we're building, but what that unlocks ultimately is wider connectivity. So at Old Oak Common, you'll be able to connect to the Elizabeth line, which Crossrail, as you may know it, connects also Great Western Main Line, Heathrow Express. So effectively, you're providing a new connection, a whole new connectivity potential between the existing rail links in the UK. So what's happening on the ground, ignoring some of the political headlines, we've got 350 active sites between London and Birmingham. We've got some very big sites like this one in the picture, which is a tunnel boring machine, which is boring in the Midlands or towards Midlands area. And we've got about 30,000 people currently working on the project, of which about 1,500 are apprentices. And that's something that we're very proud of. We want to really leave a legacy that's both the physical infrastructure, but also the human legacy of skills, employment, education for construction sector. And obviously, those of you on the call, we would welcome you coming to have chats to us about getting involved in the industry, getting involved in construction. Very quickly, what does Old Oak Common about? So Old Oak Common, I'll just share this short video, but Old Oak Common is a very interesting part of the project that we're delivering. Apologies. I'm just going to voice over here because I'm conscious I've got some noise in the background. So this is a video showing the Old Oak Common station, how we're going to build the station. It's got 6 high-speed 2 platforms below ground. It's got 8 conventional platforms above ground. And to facilitate the construction, we need to build what is effectively 1 kilometre underground big box. So big you could lie the Burj Khalifa down inside it. You could lie 3 yards down inside it. Massive engineering, massive complex, but massively interesting as well. So we build this big underground structure that supports the new platforms that sit below ground for high speed 2. And then we move on to the conventional station, which is a sort of ground level platforms where we're building 8 platforms, which will allow the Elizabeth line, Great Western Main Line to stop. So really Old Oak Common provides that connectivity between those different modes, whilst also having a front door, providing a new community really in this part of London, which for those of you who are familiar with it currently doesn't have a great deal of opportunity. It's relatively deprived area of London, so really having this new station will bring a whole host of investment into the area, including 25,000 new homes, 55,000 new jobs. That's all because we've now got connectivity to this part of northwest London. It's very similar in terms of what happened at Stratford, I think, in terms of what will be left here. So Stratford, for those who are familiar in London, was relatively deprived, didn't have that much investment. The Olympics came on, they invested a lot of money in the infrastructure. The railways over there provided better connectivity. And now you go there, it's a whole new city. So we hope something similar will happen in the Old Oak area as a result. Quite an interesting engineering design. So quite a curved roof structure that you can see there. So that's complex and challenging, but ultimately quite a architectural feat of engineering that will be something sort of a statement in terms of the station that people will say, oh yeah, that's Old Oak Common. So just skipping on, conscious of time, I think I've talked in general about the design, but I'm just going to flick through a couple of pictures for you to give you a sense of what it will look like. So here's an image as you approach the entrance to the station. Here's a more realistic image with it raining. So that's more like what we will actually see. But yeah, gives you a sense of the type of infrastructure we're building. Walk in the front door, go down below ground. This is the high-speed 2 platforms. So very similar look and feel to some of the new Crossrail stations, perhaps, for those who've been on those. And then over on the conventional station, this is what it looks like. So very big, very sexy stuff, but it's really, really fantastic opportunity to sort of build something and leave something here in northwest London that will connect the whole country and the local environment around where we are at Old Oak. And I think with that, I'll pause and hand over to the next speaker. So thank you very much.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name's Dave Duncombe. I currently work on the Old Oak Common project. I'm the lead integrator. I'll explain what that means in a bit. I perform the lead integrator role for Old Oak Common Station. My background is I spent 23 years in the Royal Navy as a submariner, and I was a weapons engineer in the submarines. I then left the Navy, and my big transition was from the Navy to the defence industry. My first transition was from the Navy to the defence industry, so relatively easy transition. I then decided at some point later to move from the defence industry to the rail industry, which was a bigger leap than I imagined it would be. But yeah, it's all relative at the time. So my current role as the technical lead for integration in Old Oak Common basically is to support HS2 in realizing the functionality and capability that they desire for the station. So basically, does the station do what it needs to do to fit in with all the other work that's happening in HS2 to deliver an operable, safe, maintainable station, railway, sorry. That includes working with all aspects of the construction and rail systems and station systems contractors to make sure that they all integrate together to allow the public to jump on the station, get on the train and go to wherever, well, to Birmingham in the first instance. So what I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about how I found my move from the Navy into industry, and also about what the opportunities are, not just necessarily in the construction, well, not about, you know, the big heavy construction side, but also for those people who have got more of a systems element to their roles within the forces. What opportunities arise in those areas as well. So from my experience of leaving the Navy, I think the most difficult thing I had to cope with was what to wear in the morning to go to work, because I'd spent 23 years being told what to wear. Secondly, I found that there's a whole load of different people out there who don't understand necessarily the mentality and of service people and how we speak to each other in a different way to what they do in Civvy Street, and it took me some time to get my head around that actually you can't just have the same banter, the same discussions with people, the really frank discussions that you have with each other in the forces. So it's an important thing to learn. I also learned that actually the words and the language that people use is different. We mean the same thing, but we use the same words but don't necessarily mean the same thing, which is also quite difficult. But yeah, it's one of the things that we would like to do, and I like to try and do, is help people who are leaving the forces to cross that barrier between what the Army, Navy, Air Force calls something and what somebody in a project like Old Oak Common would call something, or what they would do. So I have lots of experience from that of moving from the Navy into the defence industry, which was relatively easy because we still spoke the same language. But then I moved into the rail industry and found it more difficult because they really do talk about things differently. I used to build submarines. I used to work on submarines and then build submarines for a living, very complex technical projects. And when I first joined Crossrail, I remember standing on the station going into London thinking, this can't be difficult, can it? It's a bit of track, some electrification and all that. I realized very quickly that the complications are not necessarily technical. There's a massive difference between building a submarine in a big hall in Barrow-in-Furness and trying to build or modify a railway, well, building a new one is also complex because of all the stakeholders, but also modifying a railway that is operational and still having to operate it in those circumstances. So some time ago we started this little group in Old Oak Common, mainly to support veterans, because we all understand how difficult it is to when you come out of the forces and fitting in with everybody else. And I just wanted to share a particular little story of my own. So I was in the Navy. I have two sons who've been in the Army and a son who was in the Navy. One of my sons who was in the Army, unfortunately, suffers from PTSD because of his time in the Army. And I find it a tough thing. It's very tough for families when people are away in places you really would rather them not be in. So I think it's really important for people, when you're thinking about Old Oak Common is it a great place to work from a service leavers point of view. We really do understand those sort of things, and not just for the people who have left the services, but for the families and friends of people who are in the forces who may be just undergoing that little bit of stress of not knowing where their loved ones really are and what they're really up to. And so yeah, I don't profess to understand PTSD at all, really, but I just understand the consequence it can have on people. So yeah, I think for me it's a really strong selling point for Balfour, Beatty, VINCI, Systra joint venture, and along with HS2 as well, because HS2 have also they've also got this same sort of ethos. So for forces people, I think it's a great place, great way forward, great place to work. Now, I did say at the beginning that yeah, this is a great massive construction project at the moment, but we're transitioning into installing systems into the station and how they work. And so for people, and I'll use Army examples rather than Navy RAF, because I just find it easier. So for people who've been in signals, in the REME, those sort of corps, regiments, whatever you call them, they're the sort of things that that you really can get involved in, understanding what the system does and how they all work together. You know, Royal Engineers blow up and build bridges. There's a whole load of from the REME. There's a whole load of things you can get involved in the station, mechanical and electrical systems. So yeah, the big opportunities. And my experience of people who've leaving the forces, they've got a lot to offer. So I haven't got a clue how long I've been talking for, but not to worry. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I'll always be around if people do come along and want to talk about anything. I'm happy if BuildForce and everybody else is happy for my email to be shared with people if they would like to contact me and talk about anything. I'm more than happy to do that. So thank you very much.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Garrow. I work for Anthro JV, so we are a supply chain partner to Balfour, Beatty, VINCI, Systra, and our role on the project is to install all the electrical, mechanical, fire, public health and communication systems across the both the HS2 and conventional station. But I'll come back to that a little bit later. So I served 7 years in 7th Parachute Regiment Royal Horse Artillery, leaving in 2006, and I remember the kind of day that I gave my intention to leave. I sat there thinking, well, it's okay, I've got a year, I've got plenty of time on my hands before I need to decide what I'm doing. So I probably procrastinated for far too long. And then I kind of went and had the usual obligatory discussions with a career transition partnership, and randomly ended up on a forklift course, and then did a 20-ton forklift course. That was the last time I ever drove a forklift. So that kind of license captured a bit of dust in the corner of the house. So I then made a decision that I was going to join the police, and I applied for the Hertfordshire Police, was accepted, went on all the assessment days. and my stepfather, who worked for British Coal for 30-something years, said, well, if you're not going to use your resettlement for anything, do a safety course. So that's what I did. So in my last couple of months sat in the guard room, I had a couple of books and I studied like mad, and I absolutely loved it. So I took a decision. I'm not going to join the police. I'm going to go into construction. I'm going to work in health and safety. So I did my first qualification with my resettlement, and then I used my enhanced learning credits to do NEBOSH construction certificate and NEBOSH fire certificate. And then the daunting day came to leave. Fortunately enough, I had managed to secure a role, so I left the army on a Friday and I started in construction on the Monday. So I didn't really have time to think about what the difference or what the transition was. It just happened straight away. Luckily for me, my new boss was ex-RSM in the engineers, so I kind of had somebody straight away who kind of understood me. I think I remember starting on day one and saying to my boss, listen, I really know nothing about safety. All I know is what this book's told me. But what I am really is enthusiastic, and I want to learn and I want to be better. And so when I was sitting thinking about what I would like to kind of talk about, I wrote 5 things down that might be deemed as skills, might be deemed as qualities that I believe most or everybody coming out of the forces have. So those kind of 5 are determination, knowing the difference between right and wrong, not averse in any way to change. I think the military changes every day of the week most of the time, so that's something that's ingrained into us. The will to succeed, and then the most important thing, which I think everybody in the military has, is a sense of humour. Those 5 traits or skills I think are fundamental to being successful when you come out of the forces. So I moved into this first job in safety, and I worked there a year, and I kind of left that role due to more of a personal belief that I didn't believe we were doing what we should be doing. And then I got a series of opportunities over the next kind of 10 years actually to work in different safety roles on different construction projects, ranging from building supermarkets to building hospitals, schools, and things such as that. And then an opportunity came up in a random conversation. Would I fancy being involved in tunnelling? And I said, well, the only tunnels I've ever been in is on a train. And so I ended up moving into infrastructure side of construction, predominantly in tunnelling, and then got an opportunity to actually become head of safety for a tunnelling business. So I believe you can learn anything. It's a desire just to want to learn is really the thing that's important. And I think military people have desire in absolute spades. So I don't think that's a problem transitioning into the civilian life. Then an opportunity came for me to go and work abroad. So I went and worked in the Middle East for 3 years. Again, I would suggest most people on the call that are joining have probably had some sort of experience of working in the Middle East. So that's not really so daunting. We just kind of get on with it. And then coming back to the role I'm doing now, which is with Anthro. So my role in Anthro, I'm the Safety, Quality and Sustainability Director. What does that mean? It's my responsibility overarching to make sure that every person that we employ or that we interact with is safe. We're protecting the planet, and we're making sure that the project delivers against its sustainability objectives. So that could be carbon, that could be about the community, and then finally making sure that the product that we deliver for Balfour Beatty VINCI Systra in terms of systems is delivered to the quality that they expect and beyond. So that's kind of my role. I think a couple of things about Old Oak Common itself. So we started on Old Oak Common on the 13th of November, and I met Warren on the 14th of November. So Warren's the next speaker. And we were interestingly just having a bit of a throwaway discussion. And it turned out we both served in the same service, in the same corps, and we actually knew the same people. So within 1 day on the project, I knew I had somebody that I'd be okay with, that I could speak to, and kind of understood the military side of language, and actually understood the kind of gunner element of the army. I think Old Oak Common is a fantastic project to be involved in because it when you stand and you look at the project, whatever you've ever built in the past, you're kind of in awe of the size and scale of Old Oak Common. The fact that we've got various different railways coming in, various different contractors, the complication for me of the project in terms of intricacy is really super exciting. And there's so many opportunities over the next number of years in different roles to actively get involved. And I think it's a place that you'll be so busy you just really won't then think about the challenges of transition. I think what I'd like to finish with is that I've been really fortunate, I think, as somebody coming out of the military and moving into civilian life, that I've not struggled. But I think that was because I finished on a Friday and I started on a Monday, and all the kind of key skills from the army about being resilient and kind of taking things on the chin and having a bit of sense of humour, I've just really applied in every situation where I thought something might be challenging. And I think that the last bit of having somebody you can turn to and mentor is equally as important. But I think if you use your skill sets you've got, keep a sense of humour, you'll fly through civilian life and you'll fly into a career in construction. I think I should be around my time there. So any questions, drop them in the chat, and I'm happy to respond or help anybody.
Hi, my name is Warren Wilson. I am the head of security here at Old Oak Common for HS2, and I have no construction or rail background whatsoever. So as much as everybody else on the call has a construction background, it just goes to show that you can get into this industry not having those sorts of qualifications, if you're interested in doing that. So my military, or my history, is 22 years in the artillery. I did a year in Civvy Street working for BT as a network design engineer. The office politics got the better of me, so I left there and then went to Afghanistan as a contractor for 12 years. Came back from there and got this position in Old Oak Common in August 21. So I think the only reason I'm on here is because I'm different to everybody else, and it's just to prove it in a lot of different ways. And it's to prove that no matter what you do in the military, you have a set of skills that you can apply wherever you go. And what BuildForce are trying to do is to promote those skills that you have. When I left, I went to CTP the same as Chris did, and all they showed me was to write a CV, and that was it. There was no sort of days out, there's no introductions, there's no workshops like this. So it was very, very, here you go, you've done your time, off you go, thank you very much, with a handshake. So you do have a lot of transferable skills that the Civvy Street industry don't really appreciate. If there's one thing that I would explain to you, if you haven't already been told it, is try and establish how the job that you do, the civilian equivalent, and use the terminology that the civilians use. Because if you start using military terminology, they'll blow their minds and they just won't understand. Unless, of course, it goes to somebody with a military background. Old Oak Common as a whole, there are approximately 1,200 people on site every day, who all come through the security checks at the beginning. I've got a subcontractor security team that work for me, and we are involved in everything from thefts of equipment, say personal relationships, interpersonal relationships at occasions, and also because of the CCTV system that we have, we are also involved in health and safety. So as much as I don't have a security or health and safety background, we as military people have been placed in positions where you haven't got a clue. You need to pick it up on the job and pick it up quick, and that is what you do. That's what I've had to do here. It's not impossible. It's easy to do, as Chris said, we have, and Dave said, we have got a lot of other military people on the circuit here, and they are always willing to help you, always willing to speak to you. I'm not saying that the other people aren't, but you know, you have that natural bond with these other people, and you can talk, you can shoot, and you can do all sorts of different things. And that is probably me, actually.
Thank you to Warren, Chris, and Dave. It's really nice to hear, obviously, stories from Dave. Dave's story about, you know, his two sons, and one of them who had the PTSD is actually why I wanted to sort of get involved in this in the first place. I think after hearing Dave's story, and for Warren and Chris too, that's, you know, it's a lovely story when they first met each other on the sort of second day of the project. It's the whole point of what we're trying to foster here at Old Oak Common. So a bit about me. So yeah, my name's Tom Uffing. I'm the relationship manager here at Old Oak Common. I have no military experience, you can probably tell, but I've been here for about a year. And my job really at Old Oak Common is to try and foster a sense of collaboration across from HS2, which is Peter Gow, who you heard from earlier on, sort of the likes of Warren and Dave, who are BBVS, and all our subcontractors, which Chris is a part of as well. So it's just trying to kind of forge one team. And but as part of my role, and actually it's one of my favourite parts of the role, is I help facilitate our veterans and reservists group. So our veterans and reservists group actually started about 10 months ago now, I think. And it was a guy called Sean Harrion, and he came up to me. He was a commercial manager at HS2, and he was in the parachute regiment for a few years. And he came up to me and he said, Tom, I'd really like to set something up, a NAFTI. I want to set up a NAFTI. And I said, oh, and then by the time I asked him what's that, he disappeared into another meeting room. So I chased him down, you know, and a couple of days later on, and he said to me, oh, Tom, sorry, a NAFTI is a tea break. And I'd love to have a tea break and set something up here at Old Oak Common for all the veterans and veterans on site, just a safe place they can get together. And as Warren said, we've all got a bit of a special bond. And but I said, okay, well, I can try and sort that out, Sean. But also, can I ask, how did you get into the construction industry from the armed forces? And he said, well, to be honest, you know, you've got so many of these transferable skills, but what's helped me really flourish in civilian life is actually some of the skills you learn in the armed forces. It's about leadership, team building, and most importantly, dealing with adversity and dealing with stressful situations has really put me in good stead into civilian life. And actually, he's just gone on now to a swanky new job in Canada, I believe. She's left us behind. But then we thought to ourselves, okay, so we'll set up this veterans and reservists group. So we've actually now got 70. We've got our 17th new member joined yesterday from Select. So they're a subcontractor that deal with manage all our cranes on site. But really, the kind of group's got a couple of focuses. One, as I said, is, as Warren said earlier on, it really is that kind of safe space for veterans and reservists on site to come to and just have a bit of a giggle from time to time. So they meet every month. But we also thought, well, what can we do as a group and our special place at Old Oak Common and what we've got here to help people, military personnel who are leaving and want to maybe get into the construction sector. So that's why we got in touch with BuildForce. And it's been really great. We really feel we're getting momentum now for this year in particular. And also, it's about sort of looking at mental health. I think that's something that's really in particular pertinent to some of our speakers before, in particular something that Warren is particularly passionate about as well. So it's about what can we do as HS2 as a sort of an umbrella organisation to support people with veterans who are working on JV, subcontractors or HS2 to support them. So to that end, we're actually meeting on the 6th of March at HMS Presidents to discuss this with all the JVs and all the people connected to the project from Euston to Birmingham, as Peter described on the map. And I think they're quite looking forward to sort of a cheaper drink afterwards as well. But also, and developing this with BuildForce, we're having a big Insight Day here on site at Old Oak Common on the 24th of April. So the purpose of the day, and we're really, really looking forward to this actually, I'm running it for you guys, is we want you to have a tour of this, a tour of our site, which is huge. It's a huge, huge site. One of our foremen Suki says he does 25,000 steps a day just going on site. I hope that just sort of illustrates the magnitude of the area, of the geographical area we kind of work in, and this is a huge infrastructure project. So we want to have a tour of the site and see everything that's going on. The picture on the right hand side is the box which Peter described. So that's what the Burj Khalifa can fit in, and behind them is a TBM, so it's a tunnel boring machine, and that broke through a couple of weeks ago. The tunnel boring machine is called Lydia, and it's to help with the logistics tunnel, which will then go on to Euston. So we're going to try and split you up into smaller groups, because and then what we want to do is bring you back in. We've got this huge office also on site, and we can try to discuss all the different areas. So whether it be something like systems integration, which Dave has described, something like health and safety, which Chris has just described what he does, or security, which Warren does. He works within the logistics division here at Old Oak Common. The most important thing for us is we want to make this bespoke as possible for you. We want you to come out of this day and feel that you learned something about Old Oak Common, the construction industry, and where your skills align, and trying to help with your CV and elevate the skills that you do have, which are so transferable, which Sean discussed at the end. And then we really would like to hear from a couple of people at HS2, a bit of a closing note, and just some key lessons that maybe you could take away. So it's on the 24th of April. If you haven't registered yet for it, please do. We really, really are conscious we want to make this worth your while. And I cannot wait to see you. If you have any questions about the day, please get in touch with Caroline, and she can put you in touch with me as well. So thank you so much for your time.
Excellent. Oh, it's nice to meet you all. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name's Isabel Walder. I'm the resources manager and the resourcing lead for the VINCI side of things on HS2 Old Oak Common. I do also look after our other projects all across the UK. So it's good to meet you all. The elements of my job. So I'm responsible for the internal mobilisation of staff. I'm responsible for looking at areas where we need to maybe upskill our staff. I'm responsible for things like retention, early careers, and then careers via people like BuildForce. I've worked with BuildForce for about 6 years now, and looking at how people can transition into our construction, or into our company and into the construction industry. I do some external recruitment, I should mention that too. So what I wanted to talk to you today about was, I just wanted to give you some ideas of the types of jobs roles that people like yourselves transition into into our construction industry. I was going to talk you through some ideas on some potential courses that you could do, especially for those people you've got about a year before you're about to come out into Civvy Street, and give you some ideas of where to look. And then finally, I was just going to give you some career tips as well. So first of all, I'll go on to the types of jobs roles. So everybody, well, a lot of people think that the only thing that you do in construction is you get out on site and you're in your muddy boots. In actual fact, there's lots and lots of different career paths within our industry, and indeed on HS2 Old Oak Common. So to give you an idea of those, first of all, that's the traditional one: civil engineering and design, and also quantity surveying. Also, health and safety is very key in our industry, and it's often a good way of transitioning into construction. So we've got the environmental path. Obviously, all of our projects are or can be hugely disruptive whilst they are being built. And although we leave a long-lasting legacy, we've got teams of people who look after and make sure that we are looking after the environment as best we can, and looking after sustainability whilst we're building our big projects. Next one is quality assurance. So we have quality teams who monitor the quality, and they can come from often you can go and do courses, or you can come from sort of systems backgrounds. We have finance and cost control teams, another area that people maybe don't think about when they're looking at roles in the construction industry. They are responsible for ensuring that we are building within our budgets and controlling all cost and all spend. This is probably quite a traditional one that people think about, the site supervision. That's to do with looking after the people on site. That is very much site-based, monitoring the work that's being carried out, and managing the labour staff. Mechanical and electrical, we have M&E teams. They're often related to fit out, mechanical, electrical design areas. Often people that have maybe done mechanical, electrical apprenticeship, and that's a good way of transitioning into construction. Logistics and traffic management. Again, we've had a lot of people that come from or ex-forces who have transitioned into that area. And finally, just support teams. You know, we've got support teams for document control. We've got support teams for office management. We've the BIM digital engineering. So there's lots of other little areas that maybe aren't completely obvious. The next thing I was going to do is just going to give you an idea of some courses. I've chosen ones that they're just ideas of some that I've picked that are around the year-long mark. Some of them are sort of 2 days, five days, but just some ideas. There's a lot of acronyms in here, but I don't know whether you want to. I can go through them with you. So we've got IOSH and NEBOSH for health and safety. That's something that you could maybe look at during that year. There's various MVQ courses in construction management. Obviously, you can go MVQ, H&C, H&D, and degree, etc. But that's one to look at. You've got various site courses, so the SMSTS courses for site-based roles, and the CSCS card, which everybody needs to get onto a live construction site. Again, they're not long courses, and they're good to have on your CV if you are looking at coming into construction. The finances courses that we've got AAT and ACCA, so they're related to if you were particularly interested in any of our finance roles or cost control. They're good courses to look at if you're thinking about transitioning. We've got various other plant management courses for those people that are operating or managing the plant. That would probably be on our HS2 older common site. That would be done by our subcontractors, but certainly overall construction related and worth looking at. And then our traffic management courses. I told you there was a lot of acronyms, so for those of you, I can send these on to Caroline, or you can take a picture of the screen. And the final one, environmental management, the IEMA certificate. Again, they're just all courses that show that you've got an understanding of the environmental management within construction. So moving on to finally, just a bit of career advice for you. So I'll go through them. First of all, I would suggest if you've got that year left within the forces and you're looking to transition and you're considering construction, research the career paths in construction. I've given you a few ideas. As I said earlier, it's not all about being on site and muddy boots, etc. There's lots and lots of different areas, so have a good look into it. Next, maybe once you've identified a few areas that could be potentially of interest to you, get in touch with us. So when to apply? So if I would start actively applying about 3 months before you're due to finish. And the reason for that is sometimes if you apply 6 months or a year in advance, often our project lead times and our jobs on projects like HS2 Old Oak Common, we wouldn't necessarily know what's coming up 6 months time, but 3 months is a really good time to start really ramping it up. So work placements, great idea. Going back to when, looking at researching career paths in construction and areas that might be of interest to you. Maybe you've chosen 2 or 3 areas, but you're still not sure. Companies like ours and the project HS2 Old Oak Common, we do our best to provide work placement opportunities, maybe a week at a time, just to give you a flavour of what it's like to work in our industry. And to be honest, you could start looking at those 6 months to a year in advance, checking things out, testing it, making sure that you're going to enjoy it. And again, networking with construction professionals, not only with us at HS2 Old Oak Common. I mean, our open day is a perfect opportunity for you to meet our teams and begin working on that network of people. And that's the end of mine. I think the only thing I was going to follow up with was that I think one of the biggest things in the construction industry that everybody needs is that teamwork. It's a massive team environment. So if you're a team player, it's certainly one to look at. So thank you very much.
Isabel, that was fantastic. Thank you very much for all avidly taking notes there. So we'll come back to a few questions that have come in. If I could ask all our speakers to put their cameras on, we'll just let you take that presentation down. So thank you to everyone. Our client, Peter, I think Peter's had to leave, but I think probably the first thing I just wanted to say was, oh my goodness, what a project. So I know that this is your normal now, but my goodness, what an achievement this will be. So obviously industry's finest are firmly amongst this, and our veterans are sitting there as well. So what an opportunity for fellow service leavers to follow in this route, and the opportunities available are incredible. So we're going to hit on those in a moment. A question for Dave. So Dave, thank you for kicking us off this morning. So you said that as well as being a veteran, your sons also serve. So may I ask a question? Can I ask what your perception of this generation of service leavers are like and how they can best help themselves?
You're asking a man who's approaching retirement to have an opinion on young people. Wow. No, right. So from my experience of our children, I think they have a very positive attitude to finding new opportunities. All 3 of the boys who've been in the forces have all done really well for themselves. Particularly, I will just talk about James, who's the one who has PTSD. He was in the REMI. He came out of the army and immediately got a job with Transport for London, working on the London Underground, working for London Underground. He's now progressed through to, he's a production manager of working for a company whose name I can't remember, who makes satellites down in Portsmouth. Anyway, big aerospace company. So I think just looking at him, his attitude has been really positive. He's taken on board what's been said to him. I think he could have been supported much better coming out of the forces. My personal opinion. So if there's anybody from CTP on this call, I apologise. I don't think they give them the best support that they need. I personally have Systra personally have had some experience with them recently, and it wasn't great. So I think with people like us being able to help them understand where they fit in. One of the big things you have a problem with is, where do I fit in the big wide world? My son, when he was coming out, said, "Oh, I want to be a project manager, Dad. I want to be a project manager." And he didn't really want to be a project manager. He just heard that was a good thing to get into. And he's still in engineering. So yeah, it's understanding. I think, I can't remember, somebody said earlier, understanding where you want to fit in, and having people like us help them understand how we can help them understand, because you just don't know. You know what you can do in the forces, you don't know where that fits in, and part of my passion about this sort of thing is to help them understand where they fit in. I think service people inherently undersell, well, not all of them, but a lot undersell themselves. They don't appreciate the great skills and transferable skills that they have. But I think in general, from my own personal experience, they can do very, very well.
And just in terms of fitting in there, you applauded BBVS for their culture and inclusivity. So as a veteran, what does that look like every day? What makes them so brilliant?
I think what makes them, well, we've had, well, you can see the people here. We started with 2, we've now got 17 people who are all out there and wanting to support each other. We recognise that we're different. I mean, I've been out in the Navy longer than I was in. As Thomas once kindly said, I've had more yesterdays than I have tomorrows. So yeah, but it's the culture that we're bringing, and there's a culture in BBVS of inclusivity and diversity, but I'm very, very, very keen that we extend that to service leavers, because my view is that doesn't happen everywhere, and we need to embrace the skills that they have, because they have a lot of skills that they don't know they have. They have a lot of skills that we don't know they have, because 90% of the construction and rail world don't understand, because they just don't know what they've done. So I think what we're trying to do is spread the love of being an ex-forces person. We get together, as you had, a bit of banter always never goes amiss, and we're all very supportive, and we're all trying to get to the same goal of helping others.
Right. Okay. No, I love that. I love that. So thank you for those responses. A quick question to Chris Garrow. So you mentioned, Chris, that obviously you sit as a key and a critical contractor on the project, but what is it really like as a subcontractor?
Is our client on the call?
He's gone. He's gone.
Well, what's quite interesting, I've spoken pretty openly about this actually, is we started on the project on the 13th of November, and I think it was actually Peter presented about Team Old Oak. And having been in the construction industry, 17, 18 years now, kind of, yeah, okay, heard that one before. But actually, once we finished our 3-4 day onboarding, that's a real reality, right? It's there's no us and them. It's very much a collaborative effort, because actually there's no way we're ever going to deliver the largest station in 100 years if we don't collaborate and we don't work together. It just simply won't happen, because the build, whilst amazing, is super complicated, and if you're kind of not pulling in the same direction, it's kind of never going to happen. And I think if you relate that to the military, right, we'll all poke fun at each other, and I'll always say, you know, the army is clearly better than the rest of the services, and you know, anybody that jumps out of a plane is the greatest soldier ever to live. But then Dave would say completely different. So, but ultimately, you can't operate as a combined set of forces without collaborating and working together. You know, the artillery can't drop stuff on people without logistics. You know, whether it's tanks, they're not going to get places if the REME don't support them, and so on and so on. And actually, construction is the same. Whilst at times they can be fracture, unless you work together, you'll never deliver your project successfully. And I really think that is one of the things that comes across key at Old Oak Common, is that true collaboration across the board.
And you said towards the end of your presentation there that you were fortunate, but they say that the harder you work, the luckier or more fortunate you are. So what advice would you give to others that are mid-resettlement, that are trying to capture that luck or that fortune that you've experienced?
Don't think you're not good enough is the first place. You will get to wherever you want to get. So I left as a lance bombardier, not really knowing what I wanted to do, and not being very successful at school, let's say. So I was a bit of a naughty boy at school. So forward 17 years, I've got a master's degree, and yesterday I presented at the Institute of Civil Engineers, and I sat at dinner with an MP last night. Like, wow. If I'd have gone back 17 years, no way would have ever thought I would have done that. The only reason I've done that is because when somebody asked me, do I fancy doing something? Absolutely. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Why not? And I think the military will do that because generally you're forced into that situation most of the time anyway, where you get put in somewhere that you're not used to, but you just get on with it.
Okay, no, that brilliant answer. And again, that's the point. If all of us could fast forward kind of 10, 20 years to see where we're going to end up, you'd never believe it, but you just keep going. You have a plan, you work hard. And I think that's certainly your kind of military traits. Warren, to you, thank you for your time today, Warren. Thank you very much. So you advised to try to demilitarize, to get into the civilian space. And that's what this is. That's what these chats do. Speak to other industry professionals, attend the projects day to get in amongst it. But emotionally, how do you let go of the armed forces, and do you ever?
So I don't think you ever do. I don't think you ever lose that military camaraderie, brotherhood. It doesn't matter what arm you're from. You've always, all of us have got a special bond, whether you've done 3 years or 30 years. You've all been to the same sort of places. You've all done the same sort of stuff. You all speak the same language, albeit in different terminology. And it's very similar in the construction industry. When I came here, they were using words and abbreviations that I didn't even have a clue. I'm asking people and they're looking at me like silly. So like, well, I'm not a construction guy. I don't know what you're talking about. But then when Thomas formed this group, it's helped in a number of ways. A, because you're back into sort of like a little bit of a brotherhood thing, and B, because these people that are from different departments within the office, they're the people you can go to get advice on certain things about certain things. And it's just exactly the same sort of thing that we would do when we were in the military. So there are a lot of transitional skills are the same, but you still have that sort of, I mean, Paul Moy, who's on the call, who sits about 2 seats over there and is abusing me as I'm on the call. It's a typical military type thing to do. So, but you know, we have a great relationship and we get on very well together. He should have done this presentation more than me, but anyway.
We'll get him next time.
Yeah, definitely. I'll vouch for that. But yeah, no, I don't think you ever lose it. Sorry.
You don't lose it. No, it's a good point. And another question, Warren, I think everybody loved the way that you started in terms of kind of head of security, but no construction experience. When you're looking at HS2, and even I say this as a commercial director, when you look at HS2, the enormity of it, the complexity of it, the speed of it, the profile of it, the amount of money you're spending each day, it's hard not to be overwhelmed by that. So for all our service leavers listening who are phenomenal in their day job, who are having outstanding military careers, can you just give some reassurance that you can do this? You will settle fine. There will be a community here in those first couple of weeks or months to help.
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's the same as Chris said. One of the biggest things that ex-military or people leaving the military have, that feeling of, am I going to be good enough? And you are. It's as simple as that. You are. You know, in a lot of ways, you are far better than Joe Public because you've had all that self-discipline. You'll get up and come to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and not think twice about it. You'll come in on death's door, snuggling, coughing, spluttering because you're used to doing that in the military. Here, you'll probably get sent home, but at least you've come to work. There is that dedication that you bring to the job, and people see that and they respect you for it. And it's sort of like that then spreads throughout the rest of the team. So never think that you're not good enough, because you definitely are. And there's always somebody who's in and around the area that can help you out.
No, that's amazing to hear. Thank you for that, Warren. And Tom, you started off by describing your role as a relationship manager. So it's to, I think, foster collaboration between HS2, BBVS and the subcontractors. You said, obviously, when our armed forces are leaving, you hear even now, decades later, the pride they have having served and their cap badge on their sleeve, and it's in their blood and it's in their DNA. Obviously, they're looking and they've got high expectations of what the employer, their next employer, is going to be, the culture that they have. That's everything that they eat, breathe, and sleep. So I'm really getting a feeling today, a real strong feeling that this is really true. It's inherent within BBVC, and you're seeing that, BBVS, sorry, and you're obviously living and seeing that every day. Do you agree that, yeah, this is a really good soft landing for our armed forces, where culture and pride of employer is really important for them?
Definitely, and I will say actually the geography of the project really helps. We're in Acton, so we're just out of the centre of London, so it's only us. And what we're trying to do at Alder Common is create a community, and we're in a community so it has a community feel. And actually, it's really important for us because if you have a problem, you don't have to do it by email. You can just go down to the second or first, or come up to the third floor. I try and avoid Warren's desk, but if you've got a problem, it can be solved in person with a bit of camaraderie and also, most importantly, humour. And actually, I think the kind of outgoing nature of some of the members of our veterans and reservists group, it does kind of ring true actually about some of the characters in the group and their ability to get stuff done and their interpersonal skills that really actually stands out amongst some of the sort of peers from civilian backgrounds on the project. I think that's someone from an objective point of view I do notice, and I can speak very, very highly for Alder Common. I have a 2-hour commute there and back sometimes, and but I really enjoy it when I'm in there, and I do enjoy being there on the project. It's got a lovely sense of community.
And you're taking that to the next level. You're opening the doors for the project day and letting us come in.
Definitely, and I'm really excited about having just other people visit the site. And there's lots of interesting parts. It's a really challenging project. We have lots of different moving parts and different organizations, and it's very, very complex. And to see people tackle those complexities in various forms, both through team and through, most importantly, actually through working as a team, I think is something that if you're from an armed forces background, as I said in my presentation earlier on, will put you in really good stead.
Fantastic. Okay, a couple of questions for Isabel, and then we're going to open it up to everybody else. So Isabel, thank you very much for that. So just a few things to confirm with you. The website address, if somebody wants to look at the opportunities or to apply for them, can you just confirm what that is?
Yeah, so it's probably, because I work for one of the joint venture partners, the best one would be recruitment@taylorwoodrow.com. And that would come to me, and I can share that with the teams at HS2.com. And I work very closely with Tom anyway.
Perfect. And a couple of questions have come in around work placements. So what we'd probably ask is send an email to Caroline just to note your interest, and we'll coordinate that through Isabel just to arrange any site visits or work placements. But obviously the project day is coming up on the 24th of April. So just make sure you're there for that, and then we can arrange work placements around it.
And I really think that face-to-face interaction, meeting teams in person, coming to the Insight Day, it goes such a long way, to get yourself in front of, if you can make it, it's definitely worth it.
Okay, so a question to you and to your wider team as well. You referenced the courses. So these are ideal entry qualifications to be oven ready and to hit the ground running. And our service leavers have got a training pot to fund them. We have got veterans who have an abundance of experience. They maybe left kind of decades ago. So how important are those qualifications? Are they absolutely needed? Because the veterans are going to have to fund these courses themselves. So I just want to ask that on their behalf.
So I mean, some of those courses are just ideas, and the reason I put those courses down are because I was thinking about those people that don't want to do long sort of HND, HNC courses and would like to look at something that takes a year. the reason why I suggested those, or the importance of those, I guess it really helps us to understand how, if you've got your experience from the military, and then if you can then couple that with one of those courses, for example, NEBOSH, it helps us understand that you have your skill set will transition into the construction industry. So I just think they're hand in hand, and it helps us to translate it.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Listen, if you do have a question, please raise your hand or put your camera on. We'll bring you on. Just a couple that have come in. I think, Derek, you're keen to do a work placement, so we'll be back in touch and get that organised. Chris, you're pulling everybody over to the subcontractor side, so there's a few noting their interest there, which is fantastic. So we don't often have people kind of pulling to the subbies, but you've whet the appetite there, which is fantastic. Gary keen as well, so we'll tee you up, we'll get you connected there. A couple of questions are coming in. This is to anybody that wants to answer. Somebody might have a degree or a master's in engineering or in construction, but they have no experience. Would you consider them for a role in that chosen career path? I'll start with you, Chris, just because we mentioned your name there.
Absolutely. I mean, it's if I think where I started with a qualification and zero experience. I mean, you think ultimately we used to fire artillery shells onto people, and then the day after I leave the army, I'm making sure people are nice and safe. It's kind of the opposite, it's polar opposite. So, but again, I had no experience. So I think I think you can learn anything, but it's that desire. And as long as those skill sets you get from the army come across in interview, people will take you on board, because you'll learn quickly. But if you're hard work and things such as that are not in everybody, and they're really what organisations want. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Just make sure that you present yourself properly, and your CVs brings out all those skills you've got from the military, and then people will interview you, you know, and then that's your opportunity to shine then in front of somebody.
And Dave, you were nodding there, you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's some people, not everybody on this call, but some people will be a year away from leaving, and they will already have a master's or a degree in something. My advice would be to use that year very, very wisely and gain as much experience as you can. And I know from when I was leaving, and from what, you know, you are allowed to use some of your resettlement time to do work placements. Use it, you know, use that time to get that little bit of experience. Personally, I'm a great believer in, you can't always have experience. You've got qualifications. I once recruited somebody many years ago who had a degree in aeronautical engineering, and I said, so why are you working in data analysis? He went, because I haven't got any experience. But I gave him the opportunity, not through any of my doing, but he turned out to be an absolute superstar. So I think, particularly from us, people do believe in you. You've got to just know how to put that across. And I think that's the key for people leaving the forces. They're not sure how to translate what they have, and they go, well, I've got this qualification, but I've got no experience in construction. You don't need any. You've got experience in loads of other stuff that you can bring to the construction industry or the rail industry or whatever. I mean, I work across the whole of the rail industry, not just in construction. And there's lots of opportunities. So don't be frightened and use your time really, really wisely. You have lots and lots of skills that don't need to come from the construction industry. You've got lots of experience of doing things that people in the construction industry and the rail industry have not got a clue about. The real issue is how are you going to put that across to them and convince them that you are the best person that they've ever met to do that job.
Brilliant. Okay, Derek, I hope you're agreeing. Aurit, you had your hand up there, but I think David actually answered your question in terms of how do you bridge that gap. So I hope that's helped you, Aurit.
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. So Paul Kelly's asked, I worked for AKFB BAM for 2 years as a security operations manager. Looking forward to having a chat with Warren on the 24th of April. So Warren, I think 2 people are queuing up to see you on the 24th. So we'll make sure those conversations are lined up for you. Derek. Hi, Derek. You've got your hand up.
Yes. Following on from what David said, obviously I'm looking at the work placements, but obviously recently I was working for a local authority in highways asset management. So obviously sort of learned a bit from that, but obviously I did my HNC, qualified, got my membership for ICE, got my membership for the Black Ethnic Minorities Engineers. So obviously, I'm wanting to get into the industry as quickly as possible, really. I mean, obviously the skills I have are being wasted basically at the moment because I'm not in employment. So obviously I'm looking to get back into it as quickly as possible.
I think, so you say you've had some experience in highways.
Yes.
And I think, not wanting to take any thunder away from Old Oak Common, Systra, Taylor, we all have branches who deal with highways as well. So and as I said earlier, I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about anything they want to discuss. So yes, construction, particularly for this project, but there are highways opportunities out there that I could give you a link to, to our Systra website that you'd be able to explore. Yes, this is Old Oak Common. For me, I'm not blinkered on that. Whatever we can do to help anybody get into any employment is where I'm coming from.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I can just carry on from where Dave was there. I work for Balfour Beatty, which is different to the address that Isabel put down. So we've all got, as it says there, as she explained, we all work for our own parent companies. Balfour Beatty does a lot of major highways. Here at Old Oak Common, within the logistics section, we have a traffic management section. So, as much as we are building a railway station, we still need to manage the main road outside. We still need to manage the roads on site. And as the site progresses and grows, there will be road infrastructure in place. So don't think that because you haven't got a rail industry, it's a construction site. It's a complete all-encompass construction. Everything from, as Isabel explained again, from a bean counter to somebody who knocks blocks around. Everything, absolutely everything. So just don't be afraid to get onto the, Balfour Beatty, VINCI or Systra or Taylor Woodrow, and get hold of them, see what they've got, and put your CVs in. And then obviously, if you send it to Isabel as well, then she'll reach out to those other people and try and work something for you.
Absolutely, I exactly what Warren said. We're the same. We've got highways roles. At the end of the day, this is about networking, about finding opportunities within construction. Yes, HS2 Old Oak Common, but yeah, look, we're all connected, and we're all here to help. So,
sorry. I was just going to say to Derek, obviously you mentioned the ICE and then you mentioned systems. So I think it's obviously, we've got some great resource across this project and various different organisations. So just understanding a little bit more of what kind of way you'd like to go, whether that's civil engineering or that's more mechanical, electrical, comms, fire systems, and then that allows us then probably to help support you a little bit more about which side of the industry goes, because they're fundamentally different, and it's about making sure we can support you into the right place in the industry.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And thank you for everybody for that. Much appreciated.
And when I first went to Crossrail from the defence industry, I had no experience of railway at all. Not a clue. The only thing I knew about it was I'd been on one. I'd been on trains. I was recruited into Crossrail because of my system engineering experience, i.e., how do we make things work together? And so it was a big leap for me, and it was frightening. It was the biggest change I had in my going from the Navy to a BA Systems building submarines was easy compared to going to the rail industry, but just you have skills that you don't know you've got. You have competence that you don't know you have. that we just need. We all do. And it's very difficult to write good things about yourself. So and I'm probably going to create more work for myself than I need to, but I'm always happy to look at people. So I'm registered with BuildForce as a mentor. I'm always happy to look at things, help people with CVs and talk to people. So it's that's the real big. I was very fortunate that I had somebody help me do my CV from and they were from the career transition workshop, career transition partnership, but they enforce things on making sure you explain why you did something and what the benefit was.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you for the question, Derek.
Can I ask Dave a question, please? Dave, when you went on the train, was it a steam train or a diesel train?
Oh,
Isambard,
it was the one from Stockton to Darlington.
Darling, oh dear.
Okay,
I was going to ask, is it Dave's fault we had so many problems with the systems on Crossrail? But I'll leave that for a different day.
Yeah, partly.
So, James, I hope that picks up your question. So just to confirm, James's question is, BBVS are that great? Are you working anywhere else in the UK? So all I would say is BuildForce are working with all the joint ventures on HS2. If location-wise this doesn't work for you, we can look at matching you up elsewhere. In terms of the event on the 25th, so Thursday the 25th, the following day, that's the Insight Day. So that's at the London Stadium, and that will be about 40 employers, so between consultants, subcontractors and main contractors, they'll all be in the room. So that's an industry-wide, nationwide event on the 25th. But the 24th is the Old Common focus day for BBVS. So I hope that helps. So last quick question, Chris. Obviously, is the world of M&E a black art? Is it confusing and complicated, or do you make it that way?
It's not it's only complicated when you come to turn everything on and realise it doesn't work. No, that's a joke. It's you know, the integration of things, particularly on a railway, because you've got multiple systems coming together, that's complicated. But actually, the installation, if you've got a design and you know you've got a drawing and you're essentially putting things in straight lines, generally, it's not that complicated. Electricians will lead you to believe it's far more complicated than it is. I think it's the things that probably sit around it in terms of the way that we assure the work and how we go through the different stages of assurance can be quite complicated, but actually it's really needed, because theoretically you're installing something that will make sure that passengers are safe and that the users of a station are safe. So I would say no, but I guess all my M&E colleagues would say I'm lying.
Okay, well, you heard it here first. Well, listen, thank you to Peter, David, Chris, Warren, Thomas and Isabel for their incredible contribution today. An incredible team leading the way in our sector. And as David says, they are here to spread the love. And to our military community watching, the vastness and depth today is certainly food for thought. Remember, you're not alone. BuildForce are here to support with our mentors and guide you as you transition. So please get in touch if you have any questions and we'll help take it further. Just on final insights there, a reminder that this team are hosting the project day on Wednesday, the 24th of April. They are opening their doors and inviting us in. So there will be a site tour. Then there'll be discipline-led seminars, so you can spend time with the people that are doing the roles you're interested in. There'll be a CV workshop, and the resource team are on hand to connect you to opportunities on the day. So register at info@buildforce.org.uk. We'll send you more information about it. So stay well, everyone. Thank you for dialing in. A big thank you to BBVS. So definitely probably the most popular joint venture on HS2 at the moment. So we wish you all the best in the kind of forthcoming months and years ahead, and look forward to meeting you all on the 24th of April. So thank you to our speakers. Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody.